I really want to welcome all of our middle school families, our middle school educators, and any other David Douglas community members that are here. This is Doug Pease, the principal of Floyd Light Middle School. Mr. Larson, principal at Alice Ott, and Mr. Contreras, principal at Ron Russell, will also be presenting today. As we present, please put any questions in the Q&A section. We will answer your questions as best we can. We are here to serve you and take significant actions to ensure your student's school year is safe and full of learning and fun. Our David Douglas Middle schools are very excited to welcome back our students full-time under the direction of the Oregon Department of Education and Oregon Health Authority's Ready Schools, Safe Learners Guidance document. I want to emphasize we're really taking safety seriously. We know your student has just 1 year in 6th grade or 7th grade or 8th grade, and we want that year to be their best yet. We hope this session will address some questions you may have so you can feel comfortable sending your student back to our middle schools in September. Derek, go ahead to the next one. So in addition to the 3 principals that I've mentioned, we have our assistant principals in this meeting. Ms. Ortiz McNeese and Ms. Lutu from Ron Russell, Ms. Kogel from Alice Ott, and Mr. Stevens from Floyd Light. Mr. Long and Mr. Edens, who you've already heard from our district office, will also be available to answer questions. Thank you for being here. Derek, next slide.
Say talk.
Talk to who?
Start talking. Say
Huh? Hello? Hello?
Okay,
Hello?
Derek, I think we have to go back actually one slide to the agenda. So tonight we have a lot of things that we want to cover. We are going to go over our guiding principles that guide all of the decisions that we make as a district: entrance to school, the hours, classrooms, meals, health screenings, mask attendance first week, and Q&A. Derek, next.
I gotcha.
So our guiding principles, there's a
Middle
lot here
school
on this slide, but if you can look at just the headlines, this is directly adopted from the Oregon Department of Education. And we adopted it last year from them, and we will continue to use these priorities for the upcoming school year. Our superintendent, Ken Richardson, has asked us that we focus on these as we plan for the beginning of the year and throughout the year. Number 1, we want to ensure safety and wellness. Number 2, we want to center on health and well-being. Number 3, we want to cultivate connection and relationship. And that's going to be your first evidence of that will be you will hopefully get a call from a teacher before the beginning of school from your child's homeroom advisory teacher. And that'll be our first step to connect with the students and families. We are going to prioritize equity in all that we do. That's a district-wide goal. And it's time to innovate. We don't plan to go back to school exactly how it was pre-pandemic because we have learned some lessons. We've learned some things that we can try and ways to reach people differently. We've probably also learned some things that we don't need to try again. Next, Derek. We are excited to welcome students into our buildings for this school year. Parents, let me tell you that we all work in middle schools, and a lot of our friends and colleagues think we're crazy because we love kids between 11 and 14 years of age. So we really missed them last year, and we are excited to have them back. As they enter our school campuses, they're going to see some adults greeting them when they come in. We will follow the guidance of the Oregon Health Authority and the Oregon Department of Education, and we will support physical distancing in all of our daily activities and instruction, trying to maintain at least 3 feet of distance between students. Those are the new guidelines. We can do that many of the times throughout the day. There may be times in certain activities that it's hard to do that, but we will be trying to maintain as best we can at all times 3 feet distance. We are working to minimize time standing in lines and taking steps to ensure the required distance between students is maintained. And like last year, if you come into the building, you will see visuals that actually help our students see the distance that they need to stay apart on the floors. There might be one-way traffic flow signs in small spaces and signage just reminding staff and students about physical distance, wearing their masks properly, and hand washing. Derek, next.
Good evening. This is Michael Contreras, the principal at Ron Russell Middle School. So thank you for being here tonight. One thing we want to go over is our school hours. In order to ensure the health and safety of all our students and staff, we need to make sure that students arrive on time, but not too early. So in order to accommodate this, our buildings will open at 8 a.m. in the morning. We're asking families, please do not drop students off before that time, so we make sure that we have spaces in the building for them and we can keep them safe. The morning bell before first period will ring at 8:15, and our tardy bell, our advisory first period in the morning, begins at 8:20. So again, all students should arrive at school between 8 o'clock and 8:15. In the afternoon, our school day ends at 3 p.m. Our buses take a few minutes to load up and leave, and that will depart at 3:10. And we ask all students to be off campus by 3:15. Again, this is just an opportunity for safety, making sure we know where students are and are able to follow safety protocols. If your student would like to participate in after-school sun activities, we're hoping to have those running again this year. Then they would be available to be on campus if they're in a structured activity. But beyond that, we do want students to head home for their evenings. Next slide, please. So one thing we talk about safety protocols, and we talk about what does a classroom look like? We are following the guidance of the Oregon Department of Education and the Center for Disease Control, CDC. And the most recent guidance we're getting is 3 feet of distance. So what we'll be asking teachers to do is spread desks out as much as possible. We're also asking to minimize anything in the room as far as bookcases and extra furniture. We're removing those from the room so we have enough room for students to be socially distanced. All materials in the classroom need to be surfaces that are able to be disinfected. So this means like no cloth chairs, plush seats, things like that. And then again, that's to make sure that any viruses and things do not live on those surfaces. This also allows us to disinfect our classrooms every day. Our custodians do an amazing job making sure that our classrooms are disinfected. And in fact, they've been working extremely hard all summer to prepare the building for our staff and students' return. We will also ensure that all students will sanitize their hands on the way into the building and in the way into class. So that'll happen every period, especially then before mealtime. Students and staff will wear masks. We know that is an important way to minimize the effects and spread of the virus. Lastly, in our classrooms, we have HEPA filters running. Those filters run 24 hours a day to circulate and sanitize and clean the room to minimize the spread of any viruses. So we've done an amazing job and an excellent job ensuring our classrooms are safe. I will also let you know that at Ron Russell last year, when students returned, no student or staff member contracted COVID while in our building. So we are making sure that all safety protocols happen. So we do focus on safety, and the results show that we're doing a really good job keeping students and staff safe. Next slide. So one thing a lot of people ask about is meals. Our kids get hungry and we know they want to eat. When you're 12 years old, that's a very important thing, and we appreciate that. In breakfast, what we're going to do to minimize contacts and be able to socially distance as best as possible, we're going to offer what we call grab and go meals. So maybe that's a milk or a bar or a piece of fruit, something that the kids can grab and then eat. We're asking that the commons be only for students who are eating. So when they're eating, they will need to remove their masks. And then that'll be an opportunity to make sure just those students are in the commons. We will also designate specific areas for each grade. This limits our contact tracing. This limits how many students, how many other students may be contacting as well, and just to mitigate any of those issues. During lunch, what we've set up is 3 separate lunch periods that allows fewer students in our commons area, again, to make sure we can socially distance. Each of those lunch periods will then be split in half to make sure that fewer kids are in. We will split between lunch and recess. and then students who from recess will come in for lunch and vice versa. Lastly, we will make sure that there's a seating chart at lunch, so they will eat lunch with their students who are in class to keep those cohorts as small as possible. And all of this is to be able to maintain important distance while they're eating their breakfast and lunch. Next slide, please. This is somebody else.
Yeah.
Hello, this is Doug Pease from Floyd Light. As you've already heard, for your child to learn as much as possible this year, we must prioritize their health and safety. Like last spring, our middle schools continue to have appropriately, supervised isolation and quarantine spaces that include exclusion and isolation protocols for 6 students and staff identified at the time of arrival or during the school day. Now, I just want to interject here. I'm reading the slide. That really means that we take seriously if a student is sick, and we have specific protocols to follow if a student is sick. So we make sure that we keep everyone safe. We also offer free on-site COVID-19 testing to students, but only with your written permission. I want to be clear on that we offer it, but only if you say it's okay. And another great thing that our district has done is that at the 3 middle schools, we have added a 6-hour health assistant position that will assist in keeping your students safe and healthy. Next slide, Derek. These have really already been talked about, but we can't talk about enough how important that safety protocols are. We are going to follow the mask mandate where students are masked the whole time. I do want to say that we're still figuring out the safest way to do our lunches as far as masks go. So that is still, we're still figuring that out. Also, David Douglas is following the vaccine mandate. For those of you that don't know, all of our educators and volunteers in the building must be fully vaccinated by October 18th. And we are going to observe the 3 feet whenever possible. Sometimes that's not possible completely, but we'll be following that as much as possible. Derek, next slide. The other thing that we've had lots of questions about is what should your student bring to school? It's cut off, it looks like there, but if you go to our main David Douglas site, under the parent tab near the bottom is a school supply link that will show you exactly the school supplies for each of our middle schools. So I encourage you to go there. Also, all of our buildings are open between 8 and 3, and they will, you can get a hard copy of that, of the school supplies if you stop by. Also, I want to be clear that we expect your student to bring their Chromebooks and power cord every single day. So they will have those. You will get more information if your student does not have their Chromebook. I know last year's 5th graders, this year's 6th graders turned in their Chromebooks. We will have a system of passing those out the first day, first week. And finally, we really want your student to bring a water bottle. Our fountains, our water fountains will be closed, but there will be filling stations that they can fill up with filtered water, that they can fill up their water bottles. So make sure that they bring a water bottle each day. I know our schools have gotten water bottles that we will be passing out. Next slide.
Good evening, everyone. This is Andy Long, our Director of Education for the district. And it's so wonderful to have so many people on this call. We really appreciate it. And we're doing our best to answer questions in the Q&A as well. So thank you. We're excited to open up our middle schools this year, which leads to this slide around attendance. As you know, attendance really matters, and we can't do the work we need to do if your child is not here at school. And so we want them here every day, if at all possible. We want to let you know of a couple of things around attendance this year, folks. And one of them is for students that ride the bus, we want you to know that face masks are required on the bus. This is a mandate from the Center of Disease Control. We don't want to have any surprises there. And then also we would ask that before sending your child to school, you evaluate their health every morning. And what that means is you watch for coughs or fever, or if your child maybe has some chills or body aches. Obviously at this time, we ask that you keep them home, and then notify our school office. So we know that they're sick and they're at home, and then we look forward to seeing them when they're healthy. We ask because following these safety precautions, especially in times like these, will help keep our school community healthy and keep as many kids as possible in our schools ready to learn. Next slide, Derek, please.
So the first week is a little bit different than a regular first week of school. On this year, we will have our sixth grade day like we always have on Tuesday, September 7th. Sixth graders only will come to school. Normally, the second day of school is sixth and seventh graders, but this year, our seventh graders, most were not even in school last year, and if they were, it was in a limited manner. So on Wednesday, September 8th, we'll have a seventh grade only day. And then beginning on Thursday, September 9th, all students will attend. So that'll be the first day for eighth graders, and sixth and seventh graders will also be there. One note is that students will get their schedules on the first day of school. They will know their homeroom to get to. And when they get to their homeroom or their advisory, they will then get their schedules. Sometimes some information will show up on student view or parent view, but that possibly could be wrong before the beginning of school. So please do not count on that being correct. Students will get the schedules on their first day. Thank you.
Next slide, Derek. So two more ways to get some more information. The week of August 30th before September 8th, our families will be contacted by their students' advisory teachers. This is just a way to welcome students, connect with families, answer any questions you might have before we begin school. We'll also each middle school will be having their own specific virtual open house on Thursday, September 16th. Each of the principals will be sending families the links, and we'll have a presentation based specifically for your specific school. We're really excited to see you there. To close, we just want to say thank you very much. We want to thank everyone for being here. We want to thank you for the questions. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Pease for the last slide, and hopefully we can answer some questions for you.
Go ahead, Derek, to the next slide. So I really want to thank everyone, just like Mr. Contreras did for attending this session. We are really excited to have your student safely back in our buildings. I do want to say again, please put your questions in the Q&A section. Our assistant principals now will be reading the questions and we'll be answering the best we can. If you have a question that pertains to your particular student, we want you to ask that question, but ask it of the individual principal later this week, if it pertains just to you or your family. I really appreciate, again, your time. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. This is Mr. Stevens from Floyd Light. First question is coming in from Nicholas. How early does the building open in the morning, and is there a place for kids to go who are dropped off early?
Hey, this is Dwayne Larson from Alisat, and no, there isn't. It's a lot different than a normal year. The buildings will open at 8 o'clock. If students arrive early, there's not a supervised place for that. And so we would ask you to please not drop off your kids before 8. Especially when the weather doesn't get so nice, they will be waiting outside.
Our next question is from Sarah. Are there going to be lockers?
Yes, yes, no, is that right?
At Ron Russell, we will have lockers, both PE lockers and school lockers.
So at Floyd Light, we're still developing that policy and we're able to have a little bit different, and we'll get that out to our families. We for sure will have PE lockers, but we're going to talk about if we're going to have lockers in the building. Alisat will have lockers.
Yeah, we'll have PE and hall lockers at Alisat.
Hi, this is Miss Lutu from Ron Russell. From Tina, there's a question. It says, is there an option for online school, or does everyone have to go to school in person?
So right now, the online school, we do have that option. There is a wait list for 6th, 7th, and 8th graders for the online school. As we get closer and we know more, there could be another solution, but at this point, it's coming in person or getting on the wait list.
This is Ms. Kogel from Alisat, and the next question comes from an anonymous attendee that wants to know how to get enrolled or waitlisted in the online academy.
Hi there. If you go onto the David Douglas website, and on the upper right-hand corner, there is a tab for schools. And if you click on there, you'll see David Douglas Online Academy. So there's a link for David Douglas Online Academy. You can click that and click enrollment. If you are already enrolled in the David Douglas School, it will allow you to fill out the Google form. If you're not enrolled in the David Douglas School, you have to start by starting at the David Douglas enrollment page, not the Online Academy page.
All right, our next question comes from Melissa. Says she is concerned about her child walking to school due to the high crime in the area. What are parents supposed to do to ensure safety?
There are two ways we ask students to get to school. One is obviously our bus. Our buses are very safe, pick students up. If you are outside the bus zone and you need to walk to school, we suggest finding a buddy or a friend or someone who lives near you to walk together, walk to and from school.
Hi, this is Ms. Ortiz McNeese from Ron Russell. We have a group of questions that several parents asked about PE. So uniforms, when can we get them? How much are they? Exchanges, that sort of questions.
So you can buy PE uniforms in our school office. You can also buy them the first week. Your students can do that. They are $10 for the tops and $10 for the bottoms. So that answers that.
All right, the next question comes from Rhiannon. In case this isn't covered in the presentation, when will bus schedules and class schedules be sent to parents and kids? Okay, it looks like that
So
was answered in the
class
chat.
schedules will be available the first day of school. Sometimes you can see in student view your class schedule, but oftentimes that's not correct because our counselors are making final changes. The bus schedule is also available. If you look on the district website, there's the bus route link. And that's also, at least at Ron Russell, that has gone out in our family newsletter or will go out in our family newsletter.
I just want to add to that. This is Mr. Pease from Floyd Light. They were updated just yesterday. So if you look before yesterday, they wouldn't have been there, but they are there now. If you go to the district website, I will also be sending that link out. And so all three of us will be sending that link out for the bus schedules.
All right, so next question, there's quite a few that have to do with after-school programming. So will there be buses available for students participating in sun activities? Will there be after-school activities, REAP, any of those other options for students?
Our hope is that we are able to offer sun activities. I know our sun coordinators have already been working on setting activities up. As typical year, the buses will be available after those sun activities. And just like our schooling, they will be following all the safety guidelines that are required. If something changes between now and the beginning of school, we'll be sure to let you know.
There is also sports happening. Ms. Lutu, if you don't mind unmuting and telling them which sports, I think I can remember. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but
Yes, we are offering volleyball and football for the fall. Football registration for middle school is still open. It's kind of on a first come, first serve. We have a few slots left, and volleyball is also still open. So if you go to our district webpage and look under community and then community sports, you will see the registrations for both football and volleyball. So if your kids are interested, you can definitely get them registered.
All right, next question is specifically for Ron Russell. Will there be a dance team at Ron Russell Middle School this year?
Well, I don't know if you know this, but Ron Russell, of the three principals, Ron Russell definitely has the principal who's the best dancer. But unfortunately, we will not have a dance team. We might be able to offer some of those things in PE. But if that is something you're interested in, the first day of school, come see me and maybe we'll find somebody to put together a dance club.
All right, our next question, we have several about school supplies and if they need to bring all of them, headphones, Chromebook checkout, those sort of things.
yes, we would like you to bring those school supplies, headphones, and Chromebooks. You will get more information about checking out those Chromebooks, especially for those sixth graders that do not have them. But yes, headphones, Chromebooks, school supplies, bring them starting the first day.
And our next question is, will the schools be offering or have masks available for students?
Yes, we will have masks for students. Now, we don't have masks for every student every day, but if students forget their mask, we absolutely can. And I do want to mention for our eighth grade parents, the mask can be small, and we do have adult size masks for some of our eighth graders that are bigger.
All right, there's a couple questions about lunch. Some students were wondering if they're able to pick out their own seats at lunch and what that situation looks like.
I think that Mr. Contreras answered that we will be seated by classrooms in lunch. So a little different than a normal year, at least for seventh and eighth graders, they will be seated by classrooms. At those tables, I don't know that we're assigning seats, but they will be assigned to certain tables in the cafeteria.
And we do this to minimize student contacts.
All right, next question. What does my sixth grader need to bring to school on the first day? My older child only needed to bring a lunch. I want to clarify so that she is prepared.
We would ask that you bring your school supplies on that first day of school. Our sixth grade teachers will be working on setting up desks and lockers and those sorts of things. For older students who have Chromebooks, they should also bring their charged Chromebooks and power cord.
All right, we have a question. Oops, sorry, they just moved. About students, more students about, sorry, my thing just got moved. When can I contact counselors or how do I talk to counselors?
Our counselors are back to work this week and will be here next week. So if you just call the school office, the office staff who answer your call will connect you to the counselor. If for some reason that's a problem, go ahead and email the counselor, email the principal, and they will make sure that you get in contact with your counselor.
Okay, so we do have a question. Maybe if someone could review the first week of school I think there was a little confusion about who was coming when. So if you could,
Yeah, certainly. On Tuesday, September 7th, sixth graders only. On Wednesday, September 8th, seventh graders only. And beginning Thursday, the 9th, all students attend every day from there on out. Also, one more note, if you've been in the district a while, you know that Wednesday is normally a late arrival day. This is the only Wednesday all year that we will start at the normal time. So for seventh grade families, if you've been around and you think they might start like at 9:30 or so, that's not correct, that one Wednesday.
And I just want to add, Dwayne, thank you, that we're doing that to get to know the students. We're doing this at all three levels, elementary, middle school, and high school. We're calling it a staggered start. And there's an intentionality to it. It's not any other reason, but we really want to get to know your student and to really make those connections. So that's why we're doing that.
The next question comes from Cassandra. She's concerned about care calls because they might not be around next week when teachers are making those calls. So what is that going to look like if they can't get in
Yeah,
contact with
so
the family?
our teachers will work, we'll try to make connections with families in multiple ways. Obviously, one will be a phone call, hopefully next week. Obviously, teachers will leave messages, but then we ask teachers to complete that before September 8th. So they may even be calling you the following week. And you can also email your teachers anytime to have that connection as well.
I don't mean to add on to everything, but I'm going to add on to this too. We love it when our families contact us. So you don't need to wait for us to contact you. Contact us. We love that and we will respond.
All right, next question. What happens when my student doesn't wear their mask when they're supposed to?
So students will be asked to wear their mask and appropriately. If it's a young man or young woman who just forgets, we are, 12 years old and we're going to give kids some grace. If it is a recurring issue, we would follow various levels of support like we would for any other behavior issue. We'd work with the student, we'd work with the family, start to put in some parameters around what's expected for the student.
All right, we have a question from Rebecca. Can you please describe in more detail what the health assistant does to keep kids safe?
Yeah. So what they do is they respond to any student that is sick or feeling sick, or any family that calls. We will call their student in. So they're really there to observe. The other thing I want to say is that they will be trained by our school nurses. So it's not just, they're just somebody that's just a person that just is trying hard and giving out Band-Aids. They're absolutely trained to see symptoms, to understand symptoms, to contact families if they're concerned about COVID. If it's a non-COVID issue, they're still serving students for their health needs. The other thing they do is they do educate our staff on what to look for and collaborate with our other office staff that often come in contact with students. I hope that answers it.
okay, our next question is about safety. What are the implemented safety protocols with the bus seats?
So for the bus safety protocols, students will obviously continue to ride the same bus to and from school. Bus drivers should put in place a seating chart to make sure they know where students are at all times in case anything needs a contact trace. Students are expected to wear masks on the bus as well. So very similar to our classroom protocols, but on the bus.
There were a couple questions on how to find out their bus route, and I might have missed if one of you guys answered that.
Well, there's a new system that started last year where you can find the bus route electronically. There's a link on the website, but also I think each of us middle school principals will send out instructions to families. There's also a phone number for transportation that is 503-256-6526. I'll say that again for those of you taking notes. 503-256-6526.
All right, the next question we have, will students be entering the building at separate entrances like they did at the end of last year? Or will they be all be entering through the front door this year?
All students will be entering the front door this year.
Some of our buildings are going to spread it out a little bit. So Floyd Light, we are going to spread out entrances, and we will be explicit on where they will be entering.
There's a couple of questions about PE, sort of clarifications about indoor and outdoor and locker room usage. So are locker rooms available?
Locker rooms will be available for PE. Our PE teachers will follow all the safety guidelines with regards to
Hello?
physical activity. Our PE classes will be outside as much as possible,
Đây là câu
but
hỏi
then
về
they have
cái
extended social distancing requirements for physical
tủ
activity.
quần áo của các em ở
Okay, our next question is around quarantining. When kids are homesick, can they access instruction online at home or I guess when they're quarantining, they want to make sure that there is something available for the students that cannot attend school.
Yeah, when we have kids who are quarantined, we do need to make sure that they're getting their education. Our plan at this time is the teachers
khi
will
học sinh
be
đang
able to
trong
live
cái
stream the
vấn đề cách
class
ly.
for
Chúng tôi
quarantine
có
kids. So quarantine kids would be able to go to their regular classes at the normal times virtually, and that would help them to still be able to participate and keep up on the teaching and learning going on.
On the quarantine conversation, families wanted to know what the notification of exposure could look like when there is an exposure in a classroom.
So an exposure is considered any student or staff member who is test positive for COVID who is in our building. So what would happen is there is certain protocols we have to follow in order to communicate with the school community. Then we would also try to contact trace, meaning who did that person have contact with throughout the day, or potentially the previous 24 to 48 hours. And then we would go back and connect with those people and determine what the next steps are. In any sort of exposure, we always consult with our county health department and get direction from them.
Great, thank you very much.
I was going to add on to
Principal
that.
Cadet.
Last year when we had some,
I was just going to give the 5-minute warning, so to speak. We have 5 minutes until this Zoom meeting is over.
so last year we had some times where we had to notify parents. You will be notified if your child was a close contact. You won't necessarily hear every time that we deal with something at school and your child was nowhere near being a close contact. We don't just announce every day that we had a child who went home sick and they tested positive. But if your child is a close contact, you will be notified personally by school staff.
All right, next question. It reads, I don't want to send my child back with everything going on, but there is a wait list to do the online school. So what other options do students have at that point?
That's a tricky question at this time. At this time, we really do only have the wait list. But I'll just tell you that we know that we've got to educate your child. So I think that as these numbers increase and change over the next couple of weeks, we are going to have to come up with another answer to that question. So please be patient and gracious because this is a changing situation, but understand that we're not just going to call you and say that you're out of luck and you can't make the choice you want to for your child. So hopefully you will be patient while we still work on it.
We have a question about what's the cell phone policy at middle school?
So cell phones should not be seen or heard. They should not be around. I mean, a student can bring them to school and have them put away because lots of times I know a parent does want their child to have access to a phone on their way to school, on their way home. They do not need and they're not allowed to access their phone during school. Some parents say, well, what if I need to get a hold of my child? And what we need to tell you is that we have secretaries on duty. And if you need to get a message to your child or to even talk to them, then we would ask you to call the school and let us know, and we will set that up.
That concludes the questions.
Mr. Stevens, can you hear me? I do have a few questions from parents that wrote in Spanish, if I can go ahead and ask them. The first one is, can my student bring their own lunch and snacks?
Yes, I typed an answer for that one. They, of course, are allowed to do that. But also, I believe, someone nod to me wrong, we have free lunch or free breakfast and lunch for all students in the district. But if they feel safer bringing their own food or they just prefer their own, then they are allowed to bring that.
Thank you. Next question, how many students are in each schoolroom? Or classroom, I should say.
I got it. The size of each class depends on the class, but most classes are maxed out at right around 30 students.
Thank you, Mr. Contreras. One more question. For the list of school supplies at Run Russell for 7th grade students, where can they get that information?
They can find that on our district website. They can also find it in the family newsletter, and the family newsletter is also on our Facebook page. So there's a question was how we maintain social distancing with the class sizes in a full class. We are it is a 3 feet quarantine, 3 feet social distance is what's expected. And we have teachers spread desks out as much as possible and use every area of that classroom, and we are able to maintain that.
Okay, thank you very much for answering those questions. We are right at 7:30, and I want to be mindful of everyone's time. We will be posting the answered questions as well as the questions that have not been answered. We will provide the answers and post them to our district website. I want to thank our families for attending tonight. We look forward to partnering with you in the education of your students in the 21-22 school year. Thank you very much. I'm going to end this Zoom meeting now. Thank you.